Right.
And you're doing the like intro read. Okay.
Yes. So I'm gonna start us off. So hello everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I hope that everyone had a wonderful week. Happy Friday. So yeah, welcome to the Sarcast Grad School Exams, What You Need to Know, hosted by the Social Science Academic Research Center. Next slide, please. Awesome. So before we start, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Elizabeth Hafen, and I am one of your SARC peer consultants. I am a fourth year political science and psychology double major, and I'm also joined by my fellow colleague and SARC peer consultant, Emily.
Hello everyone, my name is Emily Ramon and I am a fifth year sociology major with a minor in Chicana and Latina studies. Glad to have you all here.
Thank you. If you have any questions, please submit them through the Zoom Q&A feature, which is located at the bottom of your screen. We'll be addressing all questions at the end. Also, the Sarcast will be recorded and uploaded to our YouTube channel. Additionally, we will share all resources mentioned in the Sarcast in an email after the presentation. But before we actually begin, I am curious about certain things, so I'm just going to take a few polls. The first poll is to see what exam y'all plan to take. So I'm gonna launch this poll and just answer. We just want to see what exams are the most popular right now, or what brings you to this presentation. So we'll give it like a minute. I think that's good. I'm gonna end the poll. I'll share results. So it seems that the GRE and the MCAT. Interesting. This is very, very interesting. The MCAT. Okay. So with that, I'm gonna share another poll. And just to see what year y'all are. I think that was everyone. Y'all voted fast. So it's a tie between third, fourth, and some fifth years. That's very interesting. So definitely y'all are here in that point of like studying already and getting ready and feeling that heat. So that's very interesting to me. Okay. All right, so we can actually get started now. Emily, do you mind going to the next slide? Awesome. So today we'll cover these things, types of graduate exams, timeline for exams, and how to register, as well as study tips and other resources. Again, we'll share all of these things even after the presentation. That way you have it handy on you.
All right, so I'll go ahead and get us started. So these are kind of the exams we will be talking about, and you also took the poll. So we'll get started with GRE first. And this exam is divided into three sections. It's the verbal, quantitative reasoning or problem, and analytical writing. And it is a 4-hour long computer adapted test. So what this means is that as the questions get more difficult, that's if you are doing well, the questions will get more difficult. That's what I meant. And this exam is year round, so you could take it throughout the year. And this is mostly for the purpose that some programs are on a rolling base. So some programs, for example, I know USC has like 3 different rounds. And even though they don't, this is just like aside the point, but let's say they did require the GRE, you would be able to take it throughout the year for whatever round you are playing. And the recommendation prep time for this exam is 3 months, but I did want to highlight that it looks different for everyone. This is just a recommended timeline, but it depends on everyone's unique situation. So for example, if you are a student and you're planning on taking the GRE, it's up to you how much time you want to put into it every week and how many months you want to put into it. Maybe you want to go at a slower pace and prepare for 6 months instead of 3 months, and maybe you want to prepare for 4 or 5. Or I know people I've seen online, there's like 1 month plans to prepare, so it just depends on you. But the recommended timeline is 3 months, and we will dig deeper into this on the next slide. And below, I did provide some of the prep courses that are online that you can purchase and are pretty affordable. And I think the one I personally have used Magoosh, so it was pretty good. I liked it. You can use it on your phone. So a lot of these you could use on your phone and kind of study throughout the day. So it's pretty cool. And now in terms of graduate record exam prep timeline, so like I mentioned, this is just a recommended timeline, but this is the most popular timeline just because a lot of students do apply during the October round, since some schools only have one round, if that makes sense. Like you can only apply once throughout the year. So usually people start kind of taking practice exams during August and finding a program to study with, such as like Magoosh, Kaplan, Princeton Review. And during September, it's just registering for the exam, figuring out where you're going to take the exam, if it's online, is it in person, and just continue studying as well. October, this is when you should sit in the exam, and you can also continue studying. So maybe if you sign up towards the end of the month, maybe you'll just continue studying all through October and taking more of those practice exams. And then during November, you should be submitting your scores to school, since the round usually is around like October, December, where you should be submitting your applications for graduate school. And December can also just be used as a month if you are unhappy with your score. You could use this month to do any test retakes and resubmit any different scores you may have. Now we're moving forward to the GMAT, the Graduate Management Admission Test. So this is growing popularity since more people are looking at like Masters in Business Admin or also MBA degrees, and it is divided into 2 sections. It is the analytical writing assignment, which includes 2 essays, and the multiple choice sections. And it is a 4-hour long test, similar to the GRE. I believe the GRE is also a 4-hour long test. And the recommended preparation time is also 3 months, very similar to the GRE. And some of the prep courses are also very similar to the GRE. And you'll see that a lot of things are repetitive throughout the slides. So for example, you can use Princeton Review for the GRE or the GMAT. You can also use Magoosh, Kaplan, and these are just a few that we provided for you all that are the most popular ones, but you can also do your own research outside of these if you want to find something else. So now in terms of like timeline, it's very, very similar to the GRE. So August, same thing, practice exams, begin finding a program that you want to use or a different type of like prep course or even books. I know books are also big to prepare for the GMAT or the GRE. And during September, you also register for the exam and figure out logistics, and you will continue studying. October, same thing, continue studying. November, you can take the exam then. And December, submit scores to school. So as you can tell, we've mixed it up a little bit here just to show you a different timeline. Like this one, I believe, is for 4 months instead of 3 months. And now we're going to move on to talk about the LSAT.
I was muted. The LSAT is the test usually used for law schools, and this is usually some law schools will require only this exam. Some new law schools are also using the GRE for their admissions, but when you apply, also make sure to like double check with each individual law school that you want to apply to, because each law school has their own requirements. So yeah, most for this test, most people will start prepping for it usually by the end of their fourth or third year, depending when you're applying. If you're going to graduate in your fourth year, then start prepping in your third, and so on. There's two sections. There's four multiple choice sections, and then there's a writing section that is not actually graded, but will be considered when you do apply to law school by the administration office. So even though the LSAT people won't grade it, it will still be considered for your application. 3 months of prep is recommended. And same thing, Princeton Review, Magoosh, Kaplan, and AFL score. So most of these programs will do like most, if not all, law school or graduate school exam prep. Thank you. So this is the recommended timeline, and this is the 3-month recommended timeline. Again, if you have a very busy schedule, maybe 6 months might be the option for you. But this is a timeline that starts in the last year before you graduate. So this is at the very end. So you would come to school in August, September, and start taking practice exams and start prepping for it. You would register for the exam in September and figure out the logistics and begin studying. Some people like to study in the summer because they have free time. So you can just start studying then, but it just depends again with your own schedule. In October, continue studying. November, take the exam. In December, submit scores to schools. And again, this can change based on your own timeline. So yeah, next slide, please. The MCAT. So this is the medical college admissions test. This is the one that is, I think, the most difficult out of the others because I'm not into the medical field, but to each person has their own expertise. So this to go into law school and not into law school, to medical school. And this is the longest test. It takes 7 hours. So, it's like a whole day. You have to come with like a meal, some lunch, and like be ready to take bathroom breaks on your like timeline because it's a really long exam. And so this also has a long recommended timeline for studying. It's 4 to 5 months. Right now, when we go into the timeline, it'll show how like early you have to start prepping for this exam. But the exam is divided into 4 sections: the critical analysis and reasoning, chemical and physical sciences, biological sciences, and physiological and social sciences. And these are some of the prep courses: Blueprint, Kaplan, Altius, Met Smarter, and Magoosh. Yeah. Thank you. So this is a very interesting timeline because whereas in the other ones, it would be recommended that you begin studying the last year of your graduation. So if you're graduating your 4th year, you could start studying your 4th year. This is the opposite, where you begin studying 2 years before you graduate. You begin the cycle 2 years early. And so you would start in the fall of your 3rd quarter of your 3rd year or 4th year for graduating in 5 years. So you begin studying there and sign up for study sessions. By the winter, you would have to sign up and take the exam and continue taking practice exams and whatnot. By the spring, you would take it and get your results by June. If by June, which is in the summer, you don't like your results, you should be retaking it during that time. And so you have kind of like 2 opportunities to get good scores. By the fall quarter, you should do your application and turn in the score that you like the most. And by winter, you would wait for your decision after you have applied. Next slide, please. So here are like the 3 major study tips. The study tip number 1 is take a diagnostic test before you begin studying. like early on before you even start beginning anything type of studying, take a diagnostic test. A diagnostic test is just a test just to let you know where you're at, to know where like this is what you don't know and this is what you do know. That way when you start studying, you can focus on the things that you don't know and like kind of use your resources and your time effectively so you don't study everything, because there's some things that you might already know, some things that you might not. That way you can kind of say like, okay, I can spend more of my time on this. Which leads me to study tip number 2, develop a timeline for yourself. I know we included some timelines that like are like the general timeline, but do one for yourself based on your own schedule. If you want to hold yourself accountable, there's like a way to do that. Like every Wednesday, I have to do a chapter of my study book. And so, create kind of like boundaries or I guess check marks to reach for your own self. I think that's a very effective way to study. And sometimes some people like reward themselves, like, oh, for every chapter that I read, I'll watch a movie. And it's just like a little reward. And sometimes people are reward driven. And I heard that helps. So whatever works for you, just make it work for you, right? You can look into it and see, this doesn't work, this does work. So tip number 3, don't break your bank. This is very, very important. There's a lot of programs out there that their business model is to charge you for these exams and charge you for studying for these exams. Like this is how most companies make their money. And so there's a lot of like ways to like they can charge you and things like different things. But there's some free resources and alternative resources that we have here that can kind of alleviate that. You can loan books from the library, from the SARC. We have a loan program, which we'll talk in the next slide about. But also check Facebook pages and thrift stores for discounted books. Some people have finished studying and they don't want to keep the books, and so they just sell them really at a really discounted price. And so always check for those things. Go to a thrift store. Sometimes in the back section they'll have a bunch of books, and sometimes they do have test prep books. So maybe study with a friend. Like go and halfsies with a friend if there's something that you want to do. And there's so many ways that you can still study, but without spending hundreds of dollars. Yeah, that's definitely like a problem. But yeah. You're muted.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Okay, so thank you. That was awesome. Just kind of going off what Elizabeth said about resources available to y'all. So SARC does offer like a graduate school library where you can check out study prep books such as the GRE, the LSAT, the GMAT. And we also have a 15% discount code for the Princeton Review. And in terms of the library for SARC, as of now, we are closed and only doing remote. And this might change, maybe next year. Like some of you are third years, so I don't know yet, but if we do go in person, then this might become an option next year for those third years that will still be here. Or if you're fourth thing or fifth year, that option will still be there for y'all as well. The DCP, the Division of Career Pathways, they offer consultations and career fairs where y'all can get guidance as to where to begin to apply to graduate school, what kind of graduate school programs to look into, and they also put together graduate workshops throughout the year. And then the library, once again, they have a lot of grad school exam prep books available to check out. And I believe that resource is still available to students right now. So I definitely recommend checking that out. And then the Division of Continuing Education, they offer classroom-based and live online test prep courses as well as strategy workshops. So definitely recommend checking these places out. See, anything else I wanted to add here? No, I think that's all. I guess now we're moving on to our Q&A if anyone has any questions or concerns.
There is a question. Let me read it out. I know that the SAT, ACT, and AP exams, you can submit your scores to whatever colleges you choose at around the same time you take those exams. Could you do the same thing with the GRE, MCAT, GMAT, LSAT, etc.?
Yes. So I know definitely for the GRE, how it works is when you take your exam, you have to also do your own research, of course, like based off the institution you are applying to. They have a certain code that you may need to submit after you take your exam. Or sometimes they offer like, oh, like the school and the code there, and you just click it where you want to send your exam scores. But sometimes you don't have to send your exam scores right away after taking the exam. You can wait because you won't, for example, the GRE won't give you your results right away. You have to wait a few weeks until you get your results back. So it is recommended if you want to, like, if you're like not feeling too confident or you just want to wait and see what your score's like before sending them out, just wait. And once you receive your scores, you can also send them to the university. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Anyone else have any other questions they would like to ask?
I know a typical question is how many hours per week should I dedicate for studying?
Yes, so in terms of hours, it kind of goes back to what we kept repeating throughout the presentation, just like your own timeline, your own unique experience. What does that look like? I apologize, my dog's in the back. So on your own timeline, I want to say, like, if you're a student and you know that you have to navigate like college, and then on top of that, you're studying and applying to graduate school, then I recommend maybe putting in like an hour or two every single day and doing this for weeks until before your exam. Another recommendation I do have is take that practice exam now. Let's say you're a third year, right? And you're like, I'm planning on going to graduate school or medical school. Take that practice exam over the weekend one day. And just kind of see where you're at and even start studying now. Like, it doesn't hurt to study really early on so you can be better prepared when that exam comes around. Because things happen, life happens. Maybe you plan to study 6 months in advance before your exam, and then things go south and you're like, dang, I should have started earlier. So it's never too early to start. So a few hours a day recommended.
Thank you. Is there any other questions? There is. So for the GRE, you take it in the fall of senior year. Is that right?
Yeah. So it would be during like October. No, earlier. You can do it earlier too if you want. Some applications, yeah, during October. I say October or even early December. But some deadlines, that's why you have to do your own research as well. Some deadlines for graduate school are as early as the end of October or as early as the beginning of November. So do your research and kind of plan around that too. So definitely recommend to take by October. So Elizabeth, I do see it is 12:29.
Closes off. If you want, you can go into the next slide. Awesome. So thank you everyone once again for joining us today. We hope that you were able to take something from today's event. Again, the Social Science Academic Resource Center is available to support you in your professional and academic endeavors. Just so you know, we also provide feedback on your resumes, cover letters. We provide guidance and assistance during your graduate school application process. You can schedule a consultation with us to talk about anything graduate school. We also do consultations like internships or whatever it might be, research. We can schedule a consultation. We can provide guidance for that. I'm gonna put the link in the chat But if you want to, again, schedule an appointment, you can do it through the appointments.web.uci.edu. Yeah. Thank you everyone for joining us today. You will get this presentation. So thank you everyone again for joining us.